Hello guys, it's me again, reporting to you from a room that has our old Christmas tree in it for some reason. So we're coming up on Mother's Day, a day to celebrate the people who raised us, who hopefully only fucked us up just a little bit. Seeing as that day, Mother's Day, is coming up literally tomorrow by the time you see this video, I thought, how much fun would it be to look it through folklore and mythology and find the moms who quite literally blew the most ass. Maybe not quite literally. Actually, maybe literally. I don't know. Bad mythological moms. Let's get to it. So first off, we're gonna start with probably one of the best known goddesses who has just a ton of stories that explain why this lady had no business having children, and that is Hera, the ultimate goddess of Greek mythology. Just to give you an idea of how bad she is, you know how anybody who was raised on 1998's Hercules knows that Hera was like Zeus's loving, pretty pink wife who was like, "Dear, you're going to wake the baby." Yeah, that's not her at all. She actually hated Hercules, hated him, as she generally hated a lot of the children who came from her husband's extramarital couplings, so to speak. And Hercules was no different. He was actually the product of a not totally consensual meet between Zeus and a queen whose husband he had pretended to be while this husband was out fighting war. And technically, Hercules is kind of more of her like stepson, but she still kind of wanted to go out of her way to murder him. And she would have if it wasn't for Athena kind of coming out of nowhere to protect him more than once. In fact, at one point, the queen tried to leave Hercules in a field in hopes that maybe she wouldn't draw Hera's ire if the kid wasn't anywhere around her. And they happened to palm the baby, and Athena, without telling Hera who the baby was, talked her into breastfeeding the baby. And then after the baby was breastfed, Athena actually collected the baby, returned him to his mother, and urged her to raise Hercules as her own. And that breastfeeding, I'm not entirely certain why. Somebody in the comments can let me know. But I think that that is why later, when Hera tries to send 2 serpents to kill an 8-month-old child in his crib, it doesn't work. Hercules actually strangles both of these snakes to death instead, which drives her absolutely bonkers and pisses her off. And she continues to keep trying to kill Hercules in different ways as he grows up because she was the ultimate wicked stepmother. And if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, but that wasn't really her kid, so like, who cares? Let's talk about Hephaestus, okay? Hephaestus is the god of the forge, and he's usually shown without working legs. I believe he's usually in a chair. He is actually Hera's son, and only Hera's son, because the way that the story goes is that Zeus used to be able to birth children without Hera's help. And for some reason, that pissed her off. I'm not entirely certain why, because I could tell you right now, if my husband could have popped my 2 children out without involving me getting big and swollen and heartburn and nausea, I would have been like thrilled. But it's neither here nor there. She was pissed. So she decided to prove that she could do the same. And she birthed Hephaestus. Hephaestus was born without working legs. And instead of being like, that's just how this is, I guess, this is my son now, she yeeted poor Hephaestus like a baseball from Mount Olympus. And he understandably carried that grudge with him for the rest of his life, learned how to forged a throne for Hera, and sent it to her as a gift. It was a trap. She sat in it, it grew chains and held her there, and nobody could get her free for quite a while. And then it took Dionysus getting Hephaestus drunk in order for Hephaestus to agree to let her go. This is a trip, by the way, because in case you guys don't remember the video, and I'll leave a card here for you, Hera was also responsible for Dionysus's first death as Zagreus. So she was responsible for his death as well, and he only came back as Dionysus because Zeus decided to bear him in his thigh again. So it's very odd that he chose to help her. I think I would have left her to herself, but there we are. She's shitty to children, even her own kids. And yeah, she's horrible. So, like, if we had to choose a Mother's Day gift for Hera, I would suggest a withered edible arrangement and a box of chocolates with like 3/4 of them eaten, and then the quarter that's left over, I've already bitten like half out of each one and decided I didn't like the middle and left them in the box. That's what she gets. Okay, moving on to the next bad mom. Next up is she's Hera adjacent because she is of Hera's doing. She is we call her the Lamia, but her name is actually Lamia. Most people, when you hear about the Lamia, you hear about a well-known monster or boogeyman, right? Like a creature that is known for eating children. But before she got there, she actually was just the queen of Libya. And as most of these women in Greek mythology seem to make the same mistake, she decided that she was going to couple with Zeus. Hera found out about this, and it really depends on which level of the legend of the story that you hear. She either took Lamia's children and hid them, or she killed them, or she tricked Lamia into killing her own children. Regardless of how it was done, Lamia loses her children, and then Hera hits her with insomnia so that Lamia can't even sleep to get away from her grief, which causes her to go mad. And she responds to this madness by abducting and eating other people's children. And then as she does this over the years, it changes her looks. She goes from this beautiful queen to this half human, half snake type creature. And Zeus, trying to make things right in like the most idiotic and hard to decipher way possible, says, sorry about my crazy wife, you can remove your eyes so that you won't have, so that you can rest. And then also you can see the future. So you don't have kids, but now you're a half lady, half snake who can pop your eyes out at parties and knows the lottery numbers tomorrow. Like, I don't understand how this was supposed to fix the problem, but I've already gone on this rant. The gods pick some really weird ways to fix things, but that's what happens to Lamia. And in the end, I get that it's not all Lamia's fault. However, she does eat children, so I feel like I can still put her on this list. Her Mother's Day gift would be like a good for one hug coupon that I refuse to honor. And actually thinking about this, Hera kind of pisses me off even more. So instead of her edible arrangement, I'm replacing that with a bouquet of withered daisies with angry bees in them. Because, like, fuck Hera, she's terrible. Anyway, next up. Actually, before we go into the next one, I just wanted to point out that according to my analytics, if you're watching, the chances are very high that you are not following me yet. So please like and subscribe. Please follow me. Come hang out with me. Help people find me. I am an independent author, and so the more eyes on this channel, the better for me and for you and for the world and for this great big microcosm of community we have. So please do. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to the next bad folklore mom. And that mom is Lilith. Some of you have probably seen maybe a couple of my videos before where I've talked about Lilith. Lilith is known as a number of different things. Adam's first wife, the mother of all monsters. If you watch Supernatural or pay attention to Jewish folklore, she is known as the world's first demon. She's known as a number of different things, including the namesake for a festival that you may have gone to back in the day to watch Melissa Etheridge and Sarah McLachlan, however you know her. There's a lot of lore out there about her, and we could talk about this for a while, but I'm really only going to focus on her shittiness as a mom because it's kind of a hilarious story. We would be going according to probably one of the oldest Jewish texts out there, the Alphabet of Ben Sirah. And in it, they do agree that Lilith was Adam's first wife, but she refused to submit to him. she constantly kept insisting that because they were both made by God and they were both put into Eden together, that they were equal. Adam did not like this, and they continued to fight, and then eventually Lilith was tired of his shit. She was like, I keep trying to tell you that we're on the same level, you're not listening to me, I'm out. And Adam went whining to Daddy God, and he was like, Dad, Lilith left me. Who's gonna warm up my Stouffer's meatloaf for one and wipe my chin when I dribble? And, God was like, don't worry, son, I'm gonna get him back. Sent 3 angels after Lilith and told them to tell her that if she did not come back to Eden and submit to Adam, that she would have to face 100 of her children dying every day, and that they were going to try to drown her in the sea. And I'm imagining that Adam must have been really fucking annoying, because Lilith basically was like, no, you won't. And also, 100 of my children don't care. I'm out. Bye. And she left, and she gallivanted off and slept with some angels and did a bunch of other stuff and never returned, which is what usually leads to God making Eve instead. Lilith also, for some inscrutable reason, told the 3 angels that came after her that any baby that was wearing an amulet around their neck with the names of those 3 angels would not be hurt by her. And I'm not saying that I'm like, hooray, baby, injury and murder, but also, why would you tell your enemies how they can beat you? Like, that just seemed like bad planning on her part. I don't know. Hi. Speaking of Supernatural, if any of you are fans, this is Castiel. Granted, the 100 babies or 100 children of Lilith who were supposed to die every day are demons. I get that, but still, those are your kids. You know what I mean? And you're being told that they're going to kill 100 of them every day if you don't turn around and go back, and your answer is, all right, do it. Like, I'm not saying that I haven't had moments where I've thought of like packing up all of my shit and moving to the Maldives and like barely leaving my kids a note. But that takes it to a new level. Murder of your own kids for your own freedom, that does kind of cross into shitty mom territory, in my opinion. So Lilith's Mother's Day gift for me would be, let's see, a shock collar that goes off every time one of her kids dies, and maybe a cold Stouffer's meatloaf. I also want to be clear about something. I think that she's a shitty mom for leaving her kids, but I have no problem with her leaving Eden and leaving Adam behind. And don't think I don't notice that she's suddenly the mother of monsters, the world's first evil woman, the child murderer, blah, 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 blah. After she basically told Adam, you either see me as an equal or you fuck off. I'm not gonna mess with the misogyny on that one, but yeah, I don't have a problem with that part. Just wanted to make that clear. So finally, we're going to finish up with the mom who, in some ways, pisses me off more than the other 3, and I'll get to why in a minute, and that is La Llorona. La Llorona is otherwise known as the Weeping Woman. There are horror movies about her. She's a very well-known figure in Latin American horror urban legend. She is generally known as a woman who murdered her children and now walks around the earth haunting it because she's upset with her own deeds. The story as to how this happened is so varied and so long that I'm going to tell you the version that I found more than once. But if you're like, I heard this a different way, you're probably right. It's such an extensive story that has changed so many times that any of it could be true. The version that I am most familiar with personally is the version where she is a beautiful woman. In every situation, she's named Marie or Maria. I believe it's Maria. And she has this husband who she absolutely adores. And one day the husband just like rolls over in bed and he is like, I've decided I never want to have children. And she's like, we already have 2 kids. And he's like, then, she takes her 2 kids and she takes them to a nearby river and she drowns them both. And then she goes home and she's like really excited, I guess, to tell him that the kids are dead. And he's like, the fuck? I was just talking about sending them to like boarding school or summer camp. The hell is wrong with you? And he leaves. So then she is so upset about this mistake that she's made that she chooses to, depending on the story, either drown herself in the same river or she wastes away with grief from her own behavior. And then there are versions all over the place. Some would use her as kind of like a version of postpartum depression. Some kind of use her as a just like nasty woman. Almost every single version, though, has her killing her kids because of some man. Almost every single one. I don't think I found one that didn't. Even the postpartum depression one that I just mentioned, it was because her husband like wasn't paying enough attention to her or left her or died. Something of that particular nature. Either way, it was not, it was still tied to a man. I love my husband more than anything. I still think that drowning your children in a river kind of removes the sympathy just a skosh. And so now she is, depending on the legend, either someone who shows up and steals and kills your children, or she is just kind of like a siren who seduces men from off the street, or she's just a harbinger of doom. She just kind of shows up as a bad omen. It really kind of depends, again, on who you're hearing the story of La Llorona from. The thing that irritates me the most, if I'm being 100% honest, is that in a lot of cases, she is known to walk around saying, mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? Which means, my children, where are my children? You know where they are! You put them there! You know where your kids are! They're dead! Because you put them there. At that part of the story, I was like, it reminded me so much of that scene in SpongeBob. I don't know if you guys have seen this episode, but like they're on the lam because they think they stole balloons and all they have are chocolate bars and they're like, we need to ration this. And then Patrick eats his entire chocolate bar and then forgets he ate the chocolate bar and starts accusing SpongeBob of eating his chocolate. That's what it makes me think of. It's like you drown them in the lake or river, and now you're running around like, where are my children? I'm going to kill your children until you bring me my children. And it's like, you killed them. Goddamn. Now, to be fair to La Llorona, she is not the first weeping woman in folklore, in local legend. She's not even the first. They actually think that the earliest might have been the goddess Cihuacoatl from the early Aztec civilization. She kind of had a similar story, except instead of killing her son, she actually abandons him at a crossroads. And so they say that she regularly haunts that crossroads looking for a way to bring him back. So this isn't exactly a new story. It's not even a really different story. It kind of exists in multiple different cultures. Not entirely certain what the point of it is. Usually folklore serves a purpose. I'm not sure if she's just supposed to serve as a boogeyman for children being out late at night or guys who want to just chase anything with a skirt, or if it's supposed to be kind of warning women away from just doing things to please their man. I'm not entirely certain. That doesn't change the fact that La Llorona is a terrible mother and straight trash, and if I was to give her a Mother's Day gift, it would probably be a mirror, so she could look at herself. So that's everything. Those are all of the shitty moms that they weren't the only ones I could dredge up, but those were the ones I felt like. Trust me, we could do this again next year. It's kind of crazy how many bad moms there are in folklore, and I'm not sure why. They're just there, I guess. But thank you very much for watching. If you guys have any other mothers that you'd like to hear stories about or you want me to look into, please drop them in the comments. I love suggestions. I love talking folklore with people. It's always a blast. Please, as I mentioned before, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. It means a lot. If you are interested in supporting me or the channel anymore, I do have a Patreon. Right now, it only has 2 tiers. You can support the channel. You can also get funny short stories from me. Right now I'm doing ridiculous, purposely stupid comedy erotica, but soon I will also have a third tier where you will get to read chapters of my book. So if that's stuff that you think is interesting, please head to that link in my description and join up. I would love to have you guys there. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. Links for that are also in the description. Thank you very much for being here today. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.